According to Hindu mythology, the valley of Kashmir was created out of the efforts of Kashyap Rishi. For a long time, it was known as Kashyap Moor, which means the place of Kashyap, which then later evolved into the word Kashmir. Kashmir stands apart for its outstanding contributions to religion, philosophy, the arts, aesthetics, literature, not to speak of the spiritual grace that it offers its inhabitants. This film depicts the saga of 350,000 Kashmiri pandits, who were the aboriginals of Kashmir. They saluted the Indian national flag, were and still are true secularists, believed in humanity. Descendants of a culture which is more than 5,000 years old. 100% educated community. For one fine morning on the 19th of January 1990, asked to leave their homeland, Kashmir. An audio tape was played in all the mosques, after which thousands of Kashmiri Muslims came out onto the streets, burned the houses belonging to the pandits, raped their women. In short, total anarchy. The act was orchestrated by Pakistan when Benazir Bhutto was in power. Her rhetoric fueled the vengeance and hatred which left the valley in flames. But it had really started back in 1989, when terrorists started with selective killings of Kashmiri Pandit leaders. They first killed Advocate Tikalal Taplu, followed by Justice Neelkant Ganju, Advocate Prem Nath Bhatt, and Sarvanand Premi. All of them pillars of the Kashmiri Pandit community.
और फिर चाकू गरम लगाया और ये पति के एक आंखें की पट्टी उठाया, वो इनको चाकू लगाया, ये लाइट भी खत्म हो गया.
Knife was pierced into my eyes. I lost my eyesight. Then they beat me so hard, pulled my tongue out and cut it with scissors. And then they threw me on the streets.
Youths were kidnapped, tortured, their mutilated corpses thrown onto the streets.
My brother was called by some people. He went out. They started beating him. He screamed, shouted, but everyone shut their doors. He was shot by them. Bullets were fired at him, 4 in his stomach and the rest on his head. I went out and found him dead.
Threatening letters were pasted on doors. Telephone calls at the dark hours of the morning asking them to leave Kashmir forever.
मौका देते हैं कि आप जल्द से जल्द हमारे इस पाक कश्मीर को खाली करो। अगर आप लोग यहाँ से नहीं चले गए तो हम आपके मकानों को जलाकर राख कर देंगे। ये आपके लिए आखिरी मौका है। चले जाओ, इस कश्मीर से चले जाओ।
Youngsters were picked up from their houses and strangulated with steel wires. Women were hanged naked on trees. Some were even burnt alive. Others branded with hot irons.
किडनैप किया था उनको। हमारे घर 3 आदमी आए थे सवेरे 10 बजे। फिर उन्होंने उनको बोला कि हमें बात बोलनी है आपसे, तो आप आ जाओ बाहर। 1 जून को उन्होंने पोस्टर लगाया।
My husband was kidnapped. 3 men came to our house at 10 in the morning. They took my husband outside. After some time, we found a poster pasted on the door, on which it was written that we have killed your husband and thrown his body in the Jhelum river. We have still not found his body.
एक दफा अल सफा का वो अखबार निकला। अखबार में हम तो लास्ट पर निकले थे।
There was a full-page advertisement in a local newspaper, Al Safa, which asked Kashmiri pandits to leave Kashmir within 2 days. Otherwise, we will kill you.
5 आदमी आए थे जिप्सी में। लाश तो
5 men came in a jeep, picked up my son, and took him away. I protested to the police. Somebody told us that he was killed near a place called Tuliban. We have still not found his body.
The Kashmiri Pandits protested vehemently, but the world remained silent. Indian Parliament remained silent. Intellectuals, secularists, human rights activists remained silent. Leftists, rightists, they all remained silent. A silence that would, in time to come, prove deafening. To save their dignity and their lives, these 350,000 Kashmiri Pandits had to flee their homeland, leaving behind everything they had. They took refuge at the feet of the rest of India, a secular, democratic India. But what kind of a refuge was this? Indians, refugees in their own country? The Pandits thought it would be a temporary phase. Things would get better.
My husband's hands were tied from behind and he was hanged on a tree, leaving him to die. One person came to my house and told my mother that somebody is calling you outside. When she went out, she saw my father's dead body.
The politics in our country is the politics of vote banks. Our 300,000 people do not matter anywhere. We are not concentrated at one place. We do not have a single representative in the assembly. We don't have a single member in the ministry. Therefore, they have discarded us as irrelevant and immaterial.
My son had come to perform his mother's last rites. At 11 p.m., he was picked up and killed. I had to run away with my daughter-in-law and grandson. They used to remove processions, abuse our daughters, and humiliate us. And that's why we had to run away. My husband was kidnapped from his office, and his dead body was thrown away on Ali Jan Road. His body was so badly mutilated with bullets that we even couldn't give him his last bath. The whole village saw his dead body.
उसके छल नीचे समझो सारे काम उसे
Women are sufferers in another way also, because the young people who have married can't enjoy a family life. There are 3 generations living under one tent. There is an old person, there are younger person, there are children. So in a way, if you take the sexual life, that has been totally denied to people. And that is one reason why I was telling you dwindling population. And that is one reason. Another is because you don't have the means to survive. You don't want the children to come. If you can't fend for yourself, you can't make 2 ends meet. How will you provide milk to the child? How will you provide clothing to the child? How will you provide Medicare to the child? Now children, when they grow, they need all these things. They need food, they need clothing, they need schooling. None of this is existing.
The years went by. It is now 12 years since. The 350,000 Kashmiri pandits are still languishing in camps. What a shame. The past 12 years have been a harrowing experience for a community which has always been proud of its unflinching loyalty and significant contribution towards the growth of the country. Every single Kashmiri pandit is a living example of misery, neglect, despair, and deprivation. This is a refugee camp surrounded by factories where bricks are manufactured. The dust from the kiln enters the lungs of the residents. Today, nearly 90% of the population here, including children, suffer from asthma and various other diseases. Representations, protests have all fallen on deaf ears.
पानी की बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ पर. The basic amenities like water is also not available here. Imagine our condition when the temperature is at 45 degrees. No one is bothered.
In spite of repeated offers of coexistence and pluralism, the Kashmiri Muslims have failed to see sense. But the Kashmiri Pandits have not given up. Their faith in their core values stay. They have not reciprocated fanaticism with fanaticism and violence with violence. More than 20,000 people have died in the camps and elsewhere after the forced exodus from the valley. Many died of sunstroke, as most of them were used to the cold climate of Kashmir and could not acclimatize to the extremely hot temperatures in the rest of India. Heart attacks and accidents, which have been mainly attributed to extreme psychological trauma, were the other main causes. The diaspora they underwent to find a livelihood in various parts of the country fractured the cohesiveness of the displaced families. An entire community with a distinct culture is today facing the threat of extinction after losing their natural habitat. Terrorism in Kashmir is an ideological struggle with specified political commitments which are fundamentalist and communal in character. The major dimension of the terrorist violence in Kashmir is the terrorist commitment to the extermination and subjugation of the Hindus in the state, because the Hindus and the other minorities do not subscribe to the idea of separating from India, nor do they agree to be governed by a state which derives its authority from the law and precedents of Islamic Nizam-e-Mustafa. Kashmiri Pandits have always been at the forefront of the struggle against secessionism, communalism and fundamentalism. Hence, this peace-loving, highly literate minority with a modern outlook have become the main victims of terrorist violence.
Some of the classes are in the open and some of the classes we hold in tents. While as in Kashmir we used to have accommodation, building and other infrastructure. If government doesn't take care of these students, their future is bleak. From the date we started this institution, we have been instructing our girl students to forget about their past. Every politician whosoever comes to power says that he is quite sincere in solving the present crisis.
No terrorist violence can be justified on the grounds of its political or ideological motivation. Terrorist violence in the valley is not a freedom struggle at all, and the ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir is a clear testimony to this fact.
Who has come here to ask us what has happened to my son? He has been killed, leaving behind his wife and child, crying.
There is no justification in a freedom which impinges upon the freedom of innocence. There can be no equality which leads to inequality. Leading international human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Asia Watch and others have yet to take proper cognizance of the genocide perpetuated on Kashmiri Pandits. The gradual extinction of a civilized community with an ancient culture is yet to awake the conscience of the world. This wouldn't have happened if America would have heard our screams 12 years back. This wouldn't have happened if America wouldn't have called terrorists in Kashmir freedom fighters. Let us not allow anyone to create terrorists just to keep other countries in trouble. Let us not allow the creation of a monster in the first place, because someday it will consume you. One cannot talk about smoking out global terrorism and then give $1 billion to a country which has redefined terrorism into a deadly art form.
हिंदुस्तान की सरकार कश्मीर में नॉर्मलसी डिक्लेयर या साबित नहीं कर सकती है जब तक कि 3.5 लाख कश्मीरी.
The Indian government cannot prove normalcy in Kashmir till the time Kashmiri Pandits don't return to their homeland. Therefore, the whole of JK state should be reorganized and a separate homeland for all 7.5 lakh Kashmiri Pandits should be created at the northeast of River Jhelum with all political empowerment.
Through this film, we would like to make an appeal to the world community to spare some thought for the Kashmiri Pandits, fight this menace of terrorism seriously, and see to it that we return to our homeland, Banun Kashmir.